Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case with a key important discussion in regards to not so much the cause of death, what killed Noah, but what was the main factor? Is there actually a main factor, a catalyst for everything that went down in the early hours of Monday morning? And any main factor which caused previous events beforehand. And I think there is a particular theme which you could highlight, and that is alcohol levels, alcohol consumption, whether it leads to good results or bad results. Good results would be just having a good time, laughing and joking, messing about. But in this case, this party wasn't exactly a positive outcome at all, was it? There was negatives that followed, whether it be arguments, you had a little bit of falling out, a side-by-side incident, which isn't exactly a positive event, and then the death of Noah. However, that happened. So welcome to those that are watching this live premiere. You can, interact with the live chat box on the right-hand side of the screen, share your thoughts, opinions, reactions as we do go along. And anyone in general, leave your comments down below whether you agree or not with today's discussion. Under this video, you'll also find a pinned comment by me with additional links if you do want to support this channel. And if you want to catch up on recent coverage by me of the case, top right corner of the screen where you see the eye symbol, click on that, and then you'll find the previous videos and the full playlist as well, in case you need to catch up. So, where would we really start? Well, the theme of alcohol. Sometimes when people drink alcohol, it can increase their aggression levels, it can make them a little bit moody. And that's before a hangover as well. I mean, in the Dylan Rounds case, it was kind of unknown of whether Brenner had been drinking or not the day or night before. Maybe that could have put him in a mood. But specifically with this case, Noah Presgrove, you got a handful of party goers. It's not just a couple, at max or so, about 40, 39 people drinking. Why do I say that? Well, Carter Combs was described as the designated driver. He was taking kids, how it was worded, back home. How come Carter Combs never took Noah Presgrove back home? Why is that? I never really saw a clear answer. So if anyone can fill that in, leave it down below. And if Carter Combs is the designated driver, that means she wasn't drunk at the time on the day. But did she drink days before? Did she drink on the Friday? Did she drink on the Saturday or Sunday? I mean, when it comes to Caden Pressey, he said he was drinking, but he sobered up at 10:30 p.m. Sunday night. And in doing that, what was his alcohol levels when it came to Monday morning? Supposedly not good, because Caden said to Noah, can't take you home because I've been drinking. But yet Caden said he sobered up. Is it one of those things where a person feels like they've sobered up, but realistically they haven't, and they're still being a bit cautious? I want to know, because I've never really seen a clear-cut answer regarding that. But as for Carter Combs not drinking then, being the designated driver, why did she not drink? Was there a plan from the beginning of the party that at least one person from this party needs to not drink? Or is it just that the odd person at the party just doesn't drink alcohol at all because they don't want to, they don't like it? Is there any answers there regarding Carter Combs, designated driver? And why was there only one designated driver? What about the others? Why couldn't there be more? And if there was more, would it have made it any better, the outcome for Noah? Small chances, yeah. But I always think ahead. It might have just delayed the inevitable. If it comes down to a murder situation, a person or group had an issue with Noah Presgrove, well, if they didn't have an issue with him at that point, or they didn't get the opportunity to do so, maybe in the future, if they were to hang out again, then it would happen. It's like delaying what was going to happen. It's like with Dylan Rounds at the farm in the presence of Brenner. For as long as you spend out there around people like that, if it doesn't happen now, or you manage to avoid it now, you skip death, it could come calling later. Either you have to remove yourself from the place physically as for the location, or they themselves. Which one's going to give first? So I just thought I'd drop that in. But to refer back to the sheer amount of people at the party, at a certain point, 30 to 40 party goers. Have we seen any proof, photos, video footage of 30 to 40 people in the same room? No. At most, maybe 5 to 6 people. Reoccurring faces from Sunday night to early Monday morning. We've seen a bit of Saturday footage as well from that party compilation video. And I don't see, I don't hear lots of people or voices. Do you? I want to know your thoughts regarding that. Out of all the party footage that you have seen and witnessed, did it ever come across, did it translate to, wow, that's a lot of people at that party. The whole room is packed full of them. I don't remember seeing that. I only saw a handful of people. Maybe it's worth taking that in mind into consideration. But anyway, focusing back to alcohol on the basis that there's a lot of people there and there's a lot of people drunk, higher the chances that at least some of them could react negatively to alcohol intake, whether it be because it's their first time or they can't handle it as well as others. The age factor may play a role too, because not everyone was at the legal age for drinking. There's quite a few underage people at the party. Now, does anyone know a percentage or number of underage people at the party? Does anyone know that? I don't personally. But, okay. Got to be 21 or older. You had Noah Presgroves, 19. I guess Caden Pressey, Jack Newton are around the same age or so. Avery Combs being the exception, 22 years old, able to drink. But, Avery being the birthday girl, the party being because of her birthday or tying in there, could you blame it on Avery and say it's her birthday which caused the death of Noah? That's a bit of a reach that you can't blame someone for having a birthday or a party around the time, but it's what comes after that. The party is the beginning, the party itself, where everybody gathers, those who have been invited and whatnot. That's the beginning point. And sure, people can turn up to a party and anything can happen from there, good or bad. So the act of having a party just basically brings everyone all together for the right or wrong reasons, direct or indirect. But it's then what happens after that point? What are the factors which lead or could cause the death of Noah, or even cause Noah removing himself from the property as it's been claimed, right? And reoccurring themes could be the usage of alcohol, because if you drink too much, you can become drunk, not quite there with it, not quite thinking straight, maybe disorientated, not able to drive properly. Could be a danger to yourself or a danger towards others if you do react negatively or aggressively. What we need to do now is just look at a couple of themes or events on and off which may or may not link to the pattern and consumption of alcohol. So the more events which link to a similar particular factor and theme of alcohol, you could say, well, it's a bigger reason and a bigger problem and cause for concern, which makes it bold that those social hosting rules or laws being broken needs to be looked into, and they haven't been at this moment in time, and that's detrimental to the case and justice for Noah, right? So let's just work through it bit by bit. Friday, who knows what happened on that day? Never talked about. You got the dove hunt, supposedly, from that flyer leaflet which Avery reposted, reshared on either Facebook or Instagram. It was basically talking about if you're of a younger age, underage, you need an adult with you, and as well, no drinking of alcohol. Makes good sense. You don't want to be drunk holding a firearm. You might fire it at the wrong time, you might shoot someone. So yeah, you need full control of that. No alcohol. You never know what goes on in the background. You never know. But regardless of that, Not much going on. Saturday, though, interesting. For Caden, a normal day party, nothing odd going on. But between Noah and Jack, a bit of an argument. But from the looks of it, not bad enough. Because Noah stayed at the party, slept in Avery's bedroom on the floor. So it couldn't have been that bad, really. And whilst the theme of the argument was to do with girl problems or girl trouble, the emotions and the resistance of whoever started the argument or confrontation, whether that be Noah or more so Jack, why though? Was it enhanced, intensified by alcohol, being drunk on the Saturday? Was Jack and or Noah drunk during that argument on Saturday? Is that the whole reason why an argument came out? I said, some people that drink alcohol and drink a bit too much can become a little bit argumentative and problematic, hard to deal with, and they don't see things clearly. So they're a bit of a lost cause in the moment. If there was a misunderstanding, and likely there would probably be more of a misunderstanding towards a drunk person than with a sober person. A sober person could think better and might have slightly better critical thinking skills. In the moment at a party, heat of the moment with alcohol and of a certain age range, it's a bit of a chemical disaster. And speaking of chemicals within the body and the mind, was it a good idea for someone like Mikey Lehr to be at the party or not? And supposedly Avery Combs, who I think has been described, or she may have described herself in a TikTok video, either way, as supposedly having bipolar or something. And that can come off very dark, how they may react to things. Mikey with PTSD, what caused that? Don't know. But for some people with PTSD, whether it be through being in a war, being in an accident, general day-to-day life, a bad event, that can have long-term lasting effects, and there'll be different triggers. And one of the main triggers is like loud noises, sudden noises, which can disturb the people, and they can react in different ways. They could cover their ears, they could curl up in a ball, they might become distressed, and some might even get very aggressive and defensive, especially those that remind them of the war, maybe. All different types. As for Mikey, the age he is wouldn't be to do with war, must be something else. But why would Mikey, who has PTSD, in which possible loud noises could trigger him, you never know. It depends his tolerance levels, it depends the symptoms, of course, and how controlled it is, and how bad it really is. But still, a person with PTSD, is it wise for them to be attending a party with 30 to 40 people in a smallish building where there could be music, quite a bit of noise, shouting and laughing, right? So if you get someone like that in a room, they could lash out, but not intentionally. But then, as for witnesses, as for what Kane said, there was no issues Saturday, but then again, Mikey wasn't there Saturday. It's been said by Justin Roy that Mikey attended on the Sunday only, following into Monday. Why? Maybe busy the day before. Did Mikey attend the dove hunt? You would think not, with, for example, having PTSD wouldn't be probably a good idea. But then again, I could be wrong. Might be different tolerance levels, and triggers could differ from person to person. I'm just giving my general thoughts, that's all. As for Monday, though, when the news came out post-death of Noah and Caden was in the presence of Mikey, Mikey didn't take it too well, like repeating it in his mind, muttering it to himself in the car on the way back home, which was 7 in the morning onwards, when Caden was giving people a lift back, Brylan, Mikey, Isaac. And obviously the atmosphere wasn't great, it was a bit quiet. Isaac visibly upset emotionally, and as for Mikey, kind of quiet, down, a bit reserved, but still feeling it on the inside probably. So we're trying to process that in the moment, You know, the more emotionally upset a person is, you could say the more innocent they are. You will always get the exception where a person could be really sad because they're guilty of what they've done or what they've seen and they regret it. That's just a little sub fact to take in mind. You could also say and argue that those that were drunk up to a point in time, when it came to the situation with Noah Presgrove and finding out the news about his death, it could have sobered up people to an extent as well. Considering how hard-hitting that news is and shocking, it wakes you up sometimes. There could be a bit of a come down afterwards from sobering up to the bad news. You may feel a bit low, lacking energy. There's that as well. Now, yeah, jumping ahead, but I just thought I'd add this in now before I miss it out later. To refer back to the particular events from the party itself. Okay, I said Saturday being originally a significant one of the first falling outs and arguments between Noah and Jack, but supposedly it was resolved in the end. But was that driven through alcohol, being drunk in the moment, not seeing things clearly, being more agitated and frustrated and confrontational because of being drunk? The aggression levels rising. And does anyone know if you can fill in the blanks? Have you ever seen Noah Presgrove drunk before? How does he normally act when he's drunk? Any positives or negatives? Feel free to leave it down below. It could help better to understand him. Now, besides the Saturday, going into Sunday, you had the slapping, people messing about, drunk or not. You don't need to be drunk or whatever to slap someone and mess about. You see sober people do it as well. It's fairly harmless. Some people could look into it deeper just because of what happened to Noah afterwards with blunt force injuries, bluntness of a fist, an elbow, things like that. And you see a bit of a play fight going on earlier, you could say, well, maybe it escalated later on and something else happened. I'm not going to completely discredit it, but you know, you always got a little possibility on the side. So I wouldn't look too much into that aspect, but the ATV or the side-by-side rolling over, yeah, drunk people definitely can do that, and sober people can as well if they mess about or they get a bit ahead of themselves when driving or turning. But you know, especially when you're drunk, your reaction timing, your mind, you feel a bit disorientated, eyesight, vision, could all be impacted. It makes you a little bit giddy, messing about, not taking in the consequences in the moment, so you might be a bit more reckless in your approach whilst driving. That's why drunk driving normally isn't a good idea, because you will get in trouble, you're breaking laws, but if somehow you get away with it in the moment, you're still a danger towards other people on the road besides yourself. And as for the side-by-side situation, it supposedly happened like off-road on the property, which is a good thing, because if it happened on the highway and there was any innocent people driving by, they could have been screwed because of Noah driving. Now, that's not to be negative of Noah, but it's being realistic, right? As for the reasoning behind the side-by-side, why did Noah even get inside of it? And who else joined him in the passenger seats? What was the purpose of it? If you're simply just driving about to mess around, right? Or is there another reason? Getting into the vehicle to maybe drive off and go home because no one would give Noah a lift back home. So he took matters into his own hands. But because he was drunk and he wasn't fit to drive, he realised that quickly when maybe turning, hard turn, hard right or left, flipped over. And then that's where things went from there, and taken back inside, and by choice or not, by himself or with the help and assistance of others, then being washed off, right? Maybe there's a small bit of realisation from Noah of, oh yeah, I'm drunk, I'm just not in the right mind to be driving by myself. That's why I needed someone else, and no one will give me that. I'm kind of stuck here in the moment, at least. So I think there's a fair chance that the side-by-side, if it truly did happen, one of the reasons or main factors behind it was because of drunk driving. Now, besides the social hosting laws of, underage drinking and the host being punished in a way, if you're an underage person at the party, you've taken alcohol from the host, you're drinking it, and then you get into a vehicle and start driving about, that's drunk driving. Would you get in trouble for it? I would think so. But what happens if you were drunk driving on your own private property? Not on the highway, but your own property, away from everyone and like the public highway. Would you still get in trouble? Yes or no? Feel free to answer that question down below in the comment section. There is supposedly footage out there of the event taking place. It would be good to see the event. What state was he in? What did he look like? Did Noah appear drunk? I mean, when you look at the party footage, Noah doesn't look drunk, or not much. Okay, he's dancing about, maybe messing, hugging someone. You can't really get much from that. If you saw Noah stumbling about and his speech was a bit slurred, then he's quite out of it, but not really seen any indications of that just yet, so I can't go too much into it. But it wouldn't surprise me, at least, if the side-by-side was mainly caused because of being drunk and drunk driving. Now, what about beyond that point? Well, the shower situation, being assisted, if you weren't injured through the side-by-side, but you're a bit disorientated from the event and being drunk, well, that could explain why you're assisted to the shower and helped by others. But then it depends how the story goes, because we've heard alternatives recently that Noah walked himself to the shower, right? Which would mean that maybe he's not as drunk as you think, not as worse for wear, but still. Shower supposedly happened. Then the whole sleeping debacle. Noah was perfectly fine, supposedly, Saturday night, sleeping on the floor in Avery's bedroom. But when Monday came, oh no, I want to sleep in the bed with or without you, supposedly. And because Noah didn't get what he wanted, he got mad and called Avery out. Now, if that really did happen, whether that be pettiness or another undisclosed reason, and if insults were aimed towards Avery by Noah, if that's really the case, could that be through being drunk as well? Saying things you don't mean, or heat of the moment, more intensified when you may be drunk under the influence of alcohol. Yeah, there's a chance of that. Saying bad things, what you normally wouldn't say if you were sober. Heat of the moment, bit tense. And if the other person, the one on the receiving end of the insult, or call out, is drunk as well, chemical disaster, right? If you had one drunk person and one sober person who could control themselves, it might be one-sided, but it's not going to escalate. You have multiple drunk people and it's back and forth like a tennis match, it can escalate and it can drag on. Now, with the party, supposedly 30 to 40 people drunk, most of them at least, that sounds like a complete disaster of all kinds of endless negative possibilities. You add in the fact that there was a certain amount of firearms which were brought down to the party. It's a miracle that no one got shot, right? We're talking about the party possibly being reckless and there might be dark forces there. Firearms were possibly the go-to method and opportunity to take someone out if you really wanted to. You know what I'm saying? You didn't want to get messy. You wanted a quick, clean job. One shot in the head, done. But, if people were drunk, how would they do if they were to attack Noah? Now, we haven't got full-on proof of that event taking place. It's based off a theory concept. So let me make that very clear. So, side by side, argument Saturday could be through miscommunication, misunderstandings, driven by the factor of alcohol consumption. Sunday night going into Monday morning, because there is a bit of an overlap. Apologies if I didn't make that clear earlier on. Monday morning, which some regard as Sunday night. I know that's a bit confusing. Monday morning, 3 in the morning onwards, where supposedly the side-by-side rolling over, probably because of drunkenness, drunk reckless driving. Shower scenario if assisted because of being drunk. If not as drunk, but still, after the shower, needing to sleep it off, it would make sense to sober up in the following, well, not the following day, the late hours of Monday morning, when you would classify it as morning at the time of whenever you wake up, but not really having the chance to do that. Then the event of the sleeping debacle. Did Noah want to sleep in the bed on that occasion because of what happened earlier with the side-by-side? Did Noah have any aches or pains? Maybe not any injuries, but any aches or pains, and that's why he wanted to sleep in a proper bed, because he was a bit worse for wear. It would make sense, but, you know, it's not your house, it's not your room, so if you're denied or rejected, you got to respect that. And if Noah didn't, and he needed to cool off, did he need to cool off because the factor of being drunk and drinking alcohol? Probably. Maybe if Noah wasn't drunk, he may not have needed to cool off. Okay? And I know people could say, yeah, but Noah wouldn't cool off. Noah wouldn't do this or wouldn't do that. Well, at least from what I can remember with what family members have said about Noah is, he didn't hold grudges. It didn't go that far, it didn't escalate when there was like disagreements or arguments, but at times Noah may cool off or take some time out, right? So that could have happened at the party. The senses heightened, the emotions running a bit high, heat of the moment, and so it slips out of Noah's mouth in response to being rejected upon wanting to sleep in the bed. And if it is true that Noah did call Avery a fat beep, that was censored, because I'm a good boy. Avery may have taken it the wrong way or taken it literally as a complete insult, unnecessary, unwarranted. And if she was drunk herself, and you'd expect her to be at a point, if she's the party birthday girl, you'd probably drink because she can. She's of the right age. Did she drink more than others? Who knows? Was she drunk on the Monday morning? Maybe. Well, that's where all these events came in place, right? So Avery being insulted and she's drunk could explain her possibly chasing Noah away out of the house, or just casually walking after him to say, hey, I'm not finished with you, and then have a go at him for what was said. You never know. If you think about it, just based off the attitudes and tone of voice, when it came to Sunday night, when you saw Noah outside near the front porch under that overhanging roof, asking Brylan to slap him, and then in the background you had Isaac, Rojas, and Avery, the birthday girl, and Isaac was saying something about how he wanted to do something over that way or over here, and it won't be a problem. I think that was interpreted as wanting to shoot his gun, because he was the only one in the party footage actually holding a firearm, right? And I think mumbling, uttering the words by Avery saying, no, we don't know where everyone is, and you know the vehicle's nearby. It's probably not a good idea to be shooting your gun randomly. Kind of responsible thinking. Some people could say that's a bit of a surprise, but still, Avery was putting up a bit of resistance in responding to Isaac. And, you know, Isaac might have been, at the time, adamant he wanted to do this or that. And Avery was just simply reinforcing that you can't do it. But there was a bit of a stern voice and tone to what she was saying, you know, protesting against what Isaac wanted to do. And it's understandable. What I'm getting at is, if someone can have a bit of a stern or sharp voice and response to a person just asking or inquiring about wanting to do a particular activity, then just imagine what Avery could have been like when responding to Noah if Noah called her a fat beep in the first place. Could go wrong. And ever since with the TikToks or people reposting it on Reddit, where Avery's holding a gun to the camera, saying that they're a gangster, and that the F about with exes and people from the past, and supposedly being bipolar as well, it could be a massive chemical disaster in the heat of the moment at a party, fueled by alcohol, reacting negatively through under the influence of alcohol compared to how they would normally react when sober. Sometimes people can react badly when sober. You put alcohol into the mix, could be even worse. It's like when you think of aggression levels and testosterone levels. For a person that doesn't take any additional enhancements and stuff and natural, some could still have higher testosterone, could be fairly aggressive, angry, dominant, short fuse. And you think, just imagine if they took steroids, if they took injections, especially like when working out, if they did that, they'd probably be even more aggressive, completely roid rage. So you got to take that into consideration. You add one with another and you get a disastrous, catastrophic situation. Is that what happened in the Noah Presgroves case? I think it could be a bit dramatic, that, but still, in terms of Avery's attitude and behaviour, she could have fought back, not physically, but verbally, either defending herself or calling out Noah, possibly. I mean, it could explain why Noah cooled off. To cool off, to maybe hope for the alcohol to wear off, to get outside, maybe get some fresh air, you never know. But to put shoes on to go outside when Sunday night Noah wasn't wearing shoes outside, it would indicate that Noah was going further away from the building to be wearing shoes. That's what's kind of interesting, right? But, Jasmine Millan at one point in the past said that it was Avery, the last person to see Noah, walk off into the dark. Then Jack said he was the last one. Then recent time, Jack said, no, I wasn't, it was actually Logan. But each individual there does play a role in the situations with Noah, because of Jack and Noah having a final argument, supposedly, Monday, at the time of when Noah's walking away, or just before that. And Justin Roy had said that argument on that occasion was a lot more aggressive, pushing and shoving, more intensified than ever. And that's probably because it's fueled by alcohol. And a bit of shoving and pushing and a few verbal exchanges can lead to an all-out brawl at times. So you never know, that could be the factor, the alcohol, under the influence of it. It can make one person vulnerable, it can make the other one more dominant than ever. That's just little possibilities there. So hopefully you get the idea of the events. Then beyond that, if Noah wanders off and has gone missing, supposedly, then Jasmine Millan, 10-11 minutes later at 3:41, decides to announce it on Snapchat by making a post outside of the building. What would cause Jasmine to go outside to the front porch to take the selfie? Why didn't she do it inside of the building? Sometimes when people are saying, hey, you're missing out on this great party, they will purposely take a selfie with the background being of inside of the party with everyone else there having fun. It's like, hey, look at me on camera and look what's in the background. But for the selfie to be taken more personally by herself with no one and a bland background, and for it to be at the front porch outside where Noah was last seen, that is kind of questionable. Let alone her facial expressions and reactions in the Snapchat, you could argue and say that's because she's drunk, not quite there with it, not taking it serious enough in the moment. That's what I mean. There are times where people can be drunk. A bad event occurs or bad news comes out, and at first maybe it doesn't sink into their mind because they're not quite there with it. But if they see it for themselves, or real hard-hitting news or evidence comes out later, it might sink in, it might hit hard and sober them up quick. But in the moment, oh, Noah's missing, oh, not taking it serious, it's very visible. But if they're drunk, that could possibly explain it, in the moment at least. So I'm not going too deep into that aspect just yet, but the act of taking the selfie to announce that Noah is missing, but it wasn't done supposedly in a foul play way, why the choice of location of where it was taken? Why did she isolate herself from everyone else to take that particular selfie? Because normally, if you're going to say someone's missing, such as missing out with this party, missing out on a good time, please come back, you're missing out. You would show yourself having fun, smiling of course, but as well everyone in the background. Doing it at the front porch with the door behind you closed just seems a bit weird. And considering it's 10-11 minutes after Noah wandering off is a bit odd. What caused Jasmine to go outside? You could say if Avery was the last person to see Noah wander off, well, it's possibly because Avery following Noah out after Noah called her a fat beep and following it up. If it was Jack the last person, well, it could be because Jack had some final words to say to Noah because of jealousy, misunderstandings, a repeat of the Saturday night argument flaring up again, possibly. If it was Logan, why would Logan be the one to go outside? Oh, because Noah supposedly approached her to sleep in her room and it was rejected as well. But then, after that point, what would have caused Logan to go outside? Unless she heard a commotion with Avery and Noah when Noah called Avery out. Maybe. And Logan checked to see what was happening and saw Avery going outside, so they all decided to go in the same direction. Okay, could have been Jack, could have been Avery, or it could have been Logan, or it could have been all of them in the moment to see Noah off. But no attempt made to bring him back in the moment, just let him walk off towards the highway. It's not exactly normal. Surely people would be thinking, probably not a good idea. And if people are in the moment, alive, awake and present, and they've seen or heard about the ATV side-by-side incident that happened a bit earlier on, around 3 in the morning onwards, what makes you think that Noah is fit to walk off in the dark if he can't even operate a vehicle properly? Right? So, the theme of alcohol making Noah more vulnerable, possibly. Bit disorientated. And if Noah was to be attacked at any point or ambushed, I don't think he would be able to defend himself as well. Now, granted, sometimes people can get almost like superpowers from being drunk, more aggressive, more violent. But it depends how Noah reacts to alcohol intake. Because if it makes him more vulnerable, it's going to make it harder for him to defend himself. And if others who drink alcohol make them more aggressive, then they may become more physically dominant over Noah. And if it's more than one person, well then it's like literally overkill, hence possibly the overkill damage done to Noah's body. Okay? Now, in terms of the act of possibly killing someone, you don't need to be drinking alcohol, but sometimes it can play a factor and a role, a catalyst in the damage being done to that person. Not seeing things eye to eye, heat at the moment, lacking reasoning ability, lacking self-control, and lashing out, almost snapping. Maybe if they were sober, they'd be able to conduct themselves better. Not everybody can handle themselves. Not everybody can handle alcohol. Not everybody can control themselves when drunk. It is a lack of control, and there's a range of people at the party who are drunk. That's not looking good, is it? If there's a couple of people there with psychological issues, could any of that flare up or be triggered through alcohol consumption or other indirect things, loud noises and bangs? That's another factor, like with Mikey. The factor of strangers, just simply strangers who may not know Noah and what he's like. If Noah is a prankster, how it's been said by multiple people, witnesses. If Noah was to play a prank on someone who's a stranger, they wouldn't understand it and it could backfire badly. And if you add alcohol into the mix, a misunderstanding, more intense emotions, lack of self-control, retaliating verbally or physically. And I still want to know who were in the passenger seats when Noah was doing that side-by-side drive or that incident when it rolled over. Who were the passengers? If it was strangers, and maybe if they were drunk, there's higher chances that those people may have problems with Noah afterwards. How dare you put our lives in danger, right? You put in when you get into a vehicle and you're a passenger, you put in the trust and kind of like responsibility onto the driver in hopes that they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing and you're a passenger, you're completely vulnerable and fucked. So if anything goes wrong and it's because of the driver being reckless or not exactly, physically able to drive because they're drunk or there's other issues, probably be angry towards them because they put your life at danger, at risk. They almost took your life away and you put trust in them. It's not good, is it? So if it's strangers, they're not going to understand Noah the same way his normal friends do. There won't be the same level of leniency either. I thought I'd add that in. All these different events can be influenced by alcohol usage. The intensity of the situations, the emotional, psychological aspect is definitely and can be linked to alcohol consumption and being drunk, right? So I think there's a handful of events which followed in a certain order, supposedly, which could tie in with being drunk, where that makes you vulnerable, where that leads to the death, or more so those on the other end spectrum who could be responsible in some way and could have lashed out and have a lack of self-control. So I think in that particular party with those particular people, alcohol and the age ranges probably wasn't a good idea. Because take in mind, there'll be many other parties going on right now and in the past around the world. All kinds of different ages of people drinking when they probably shouldn't be. But not every party will lead to the death of someone. So if you're going to be critical and focus in on the Noah Presgrove party and the alcohol specifically with the social hosting laws being broken, should apply that same criticism and critique and focus to every other single party out there in the US, which involves underage people drinking and no adults in sight. You're going to be critical on one, be critical on all. That's the definition of balance. But I said, not every party out there in the US, and maybe even much further afar, not everyone's going to result in the death or injury of someone. But in the case with Noah Presgrove, it did happen. Is it geographically the place that's the problem? Maybe not, nor the nature, but possibly the humans or some that inhabit the location. Alcohol can be problematic, but it's not if there's no people present to drink it. It's more likely for people to be problematic, even if you don't have alcohol, because not everyone can control themselves. It's like firearms and guns. Guns themselves don't shoot by themselves. They're not like the ultimate problem. It's the person behind the firearm that can pull the trigger. You could argue with pet owners, for example, dog owners at times, some of those aggressive dogs, sometimes illegally bred dogs caused by humans doing that, and how certain humans, pet owners, will train their dogs for the wrong reasons, and then the dog may act out. But you still always get those exceptions though with dogs and other animals where they've got a mind of their own and they can snap within. Sometimes delusional pet owners, I've met them myself, and believe me when I say that, I have truly met delusional humans out there who will defend and bend over backwards and make as many excuses and be apologist for anything and everything possible. Sometimes the animals can be at fault, and other times, maybe more often, it's the owners when it comes to how you train and treat the animal. But I still think, and I strongly agree, that there are delusional owners out there that will bend over backwards, make excuses, and to be honest, they need to be on the receiving end of some of these attacks for them to get into their thick skulls, because there's a lot of ignorant twats, okay? The difference between me and others, people will say twat. I say twat, okay? Because it's a lot more boldness behind it. We've got to be focused. Got to be serious, got to be realistic. And that's what I do. Not everyone else can do so. So I thought I'd just add that in. But to refer back to the alcohol situation, alcohol itself can be a problem. This is water, don't worry. But let's just say there's a bottle of alcohol. This isn't alcohol, this is water, but in the party scenario, if you've got a party and there's lots of alcohol at the party, but no one's at the party, nothing bad is really going to happen. The alcohol isn't the problem, is it? You take the alcohol away, but there's a lot of people at a party. It could be okay, it could go well, but there's still chances it could go bad, it could go wrong. Humans can be problematic at times. There can be disagreements, there can be drama, there can be conflict with or without additional crutches, which carries the weight and responsibility for the problems. It's humans that can be the problems at times, not the additional items along the way. But you will always get exceptions, as I said, like with animals. But with an actual firearm, a firearm is an alive thing. It's not an animal. You're not training it. A firearm, most of the time, will only go off when you pull the trigger. But maybe you could be awkward and say there's exceptions where a firearm could misfire, it could fall over, it could fire itself. There are exceptions and people have been on the receiving end of it, but it doesn't happen as often, right? Just very unfortunate times. But a bottle of alcohol in a party setting, sitting around on a table, isn't going to start walking around and killing people left, right, and centre. But a human at a party who may or may not be under the influence of alcohol has the power to kill someone if they really want to, or if they can't control themselves. When you bring alcohol into the mix of things, it can be the enabling factor, or at least the catalyst to speeding it up or increasing the chances of it happening when there's humans around consuming it. Not everybody reacts badly to alcohol, but some do, and there's a chance that's what may have happened at the party. Also, alcohol can be problematic when it comes, I guess, to people's memory recollections. So even though Caden was drinking at the time, it's a good thing that he was still able to use his memory to, remember things. And maybe some of the party goers as well that have recalled on certain events. So very interesting. I think the theme of alcohol is a key pattern in this case, which led from one thing to another happening. If the side-by-side never happened, would Noah have wandered off, supposedly? If the sleeping debacle never occurred and Noah just slept on the floor, would he have wandered off? Who knows? All different kinds of possibilities. If Noah remained at the house all the way through and never left, never distanced himself, never made himself or put himself in a vulnerable position, as in, you walk away from the party, you're by yourself, you're alone in the dark, and people may come after you or follow you down, alcohol or not. If you remained at the house where there were visible witnesses about and innocent people, maybe no one would lay a hand on you. So does anyone think that, put aside alcohol, the party itself, the setting, if Noah stayed inside the house all the way through and did not leave and remained around most of the people, would he have been safe just because of the witnesses present to watch anything happening? Maybe. But if people really wanted to get at him, it would have just been pushed back to another day, if that's really the case, based off that theory and concept of death. Okay? But in terms of the original theme and factor of the social hosting laws, the party, the presence of alcohol, that's what's caused the death of Noah. And the one to create it in the first place, the party, and distribute and buy alcohol to underage people, being Avery. She's responsible for the death of Noah. That's what people in the community have said. Not me, but others have said Avery is responsible for Noah's death. Is that a bit harsh and a bit full on? You could argue to an extent. At least in my opinion, and I have looked at the poll results. Anyone watching right now, if you haven't already, make sure to participate in my recent poll on my channel in the community tab section. You'll be able to find it right there. But when it comes to, it was like two options. It was a bit mixed. I don't know what it's like now. I think one was 50, the other one was 40 something. But nevertheless, it would have changed by now of when I last looked earlier on. So it's interesting to see, but my actual opinion, The party itself, you could say, well, that's the biggest problem because that's what brought everyone together in the first place. But you know, you are allowed to have parties, you are allowed to have fun. It's what happens at the party itself and the factors around it. Alcohol, we've talked about the theme of it and all the events, what occurred there at the party, which could have been influenced or caused by the alcohol consumption. The actions and the reactions, emotionally charged or not, the decision making or the lack of it, lack of reasoning ability, arguments left, right, and centre, even post-news, post-death of Noah Presgrove and supposedly Avery and Carter arguing on the front porch outside and it being recorded, were the drunk there or not, with a sobering up, anything of weight and value there to link on with the theme, you never know. But does anyone think that if the side-by-side didn't happen, that Noah would be alive till this day? I don't know, it's hard to tell. But for the events that supposedly did happen, alcohol may play a role. So alcohol is an important theme within the case. If I was to add it on and say that, well, if anyone was to take Noah out, whether it be strangers who don't know or understand Noah or other miscommunication elsewhere, heightened tense emotions, backlash, jealousy, rage, alcohol, aggression, and that led to the death of Noah, I guess then you can trace it back to the distributor of the alcohol, and that would be Avery. So there's a bit of significance there. And you could argue, all in all, as a whole, collectively, alcohol was one of the main possible themes and factors leading up to the death of Noah. And if that's too strong to say, the distribution and the usage of alcohol at the party ultimately led to Noah either putting himself, indirectly or directly, into a vulnerable state, situation, and possible environment, which then led to the death of him. So, all in all, I think it's quite an important factor. A party which may have not had any alcohol, do you think would there have been a different result, an outcome? Would it have differed? You've got to take in mind from, like how Caden was talking, how when people met up and hung out in the past, people who we met up with, long-time friends, like Noah, Jack, Isaac, and them lot, and the girls, that they've drunk in the past, have hung out in car parks, and nothing went wrong then. So why did it go wrong on this occasion in 2023, September 4th? Wrong place, wrong time? Any odd people out, individuals you normally wouldn't hang out with, which was the main factor, and alcohol being present, which made it even more tense and problematic, does make you think. So, just wanted to do this little analysis to highlight the importance of the social hosting, the rules broken, the people exposed to alcohol, and what it could have led to after, and how it can link to certain events that supposedly did happen. Leave your thoughts down below whether you agree or disagree. As said, I am warlike realistic ref, and that's the video for today. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like and share the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.